We interrupt this guitar building video to discuss a growing problem among woodworkers worldwide, and that problem is dust collection. For me specifically, it's my bandsaw. It's horrible. We gotta see if we can fix that. What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of Home Built Workshop. My name is Jeff. Welcome to my shop and welcome to one of my dusty frustrations as far as dust control goes. This is kind of a weird angle and the lighting's kind of weird, but bear with me. Now, in case you're wondering, this is a Rikon bandsaw. This is the 10305. It's a 10-inch bandsaw benchtop unit because, well, I don't really have a ton of space for a larger unit, but it works pretty good for most of the uses. The one thing that it's horrible at is dust collection. Look at this. There's just dust everywhere, and this is after really only a few minutes of cutting. It piles up all over the place. It piles up on the table, on the work surface, as well as on the floor. If you look at all this dust right here, this is right next to where the shop vac connects, and it just piles up all over the place. Now, this saw does have a dust port on the back of the bottom panel, and I use a little shop vac hose for that. And that might be part of my issue, is maybe I need a little bit larger hose. Maybe that would help some. But a lot of what I'm seeing is the dust pours down from on the top. So somehow it's making it all the way around the saw, and it just comes spilling out of everywhere. And I literally mean everywhere. It comes out of here, it comes out of here, it drops out of the lower portion here. It just drops everywhere. If I compare the dust collection to not using the shop vac at all and using the vacuum, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. There may be a tiny bit of improvement with the vacuum, but I really think we can come up with something that maybe works a little bit better. I set the camera up underneath the table so I can really watch what's happening while this machine is running, and it's exactly as I suspected. The dust comes right off the blade, and from there it just flies all over the place. It doesn't even make it down into the machine so that the dust port even has a chance to catch it. And you can see pretty well too that there's dust just raining down from all over the machine. It may as well be raining sawdust at this point. So here's another weird angle for you. We're looking up underneath the table. So right here's where the blade comes down through, and here is the lower blade guide. If I look at this particular saw, this is the area that I'm kind of interested in coming up with something that can fit up in here and sort of seal this off. And then if we can attach a dust port in this area, maybe we can capture the dust right as it comes off the blade before it even has a chance to go down in and get sucked back up around and just blow everywhere. There's kind of a rectangular portion right here that I think we can mount a little something up in here that has a fitting coming off here I can connect my dust hose to. One of the other problems that I'm running into is with all of the dust that builds up in this area, these bearings are bad. I've had to take these apart a few times and get them cleaned out and freed up and re-lubricated, but I can feel right now this one won't even turn. Well, neither of them will. And I've got new bearings to replace that, but I don't want to put the new ones on until I can somehow improve this dust collection. I think if we can capture a lot of the dust as it comes right off the blade, before it has a chance to build up on the bearings, before it has a chance to get sucked down in here, I think that's going to work out the best for us. So let's see what we can do. We'll just take a couple of quick measurements. It's about 3 1/4 inches and about 5 1/4 inches. And we maybe have about a 1/2 inch of depth there before we get into the top of the block that mounts the blade guides. So my hope is that I can come up with something that I can 3D print that maybe will pop up in there with some magnets, and then we can attach a dust port to one side so it'll hopefully collect that dust. So let's see if we can come up with something in Fusion 360. After several hours of modeling and sketching and trying different ideas, I think this is what we're going to test out first. This will be the piece that's held right up underneath the table on the bandsaw. I've got some recesses here that'll accept some magnets. This slot is where the blade's gonna go, and this port over here is where the dust fitting will actually attach. So once we get these pieces printed out and glued together, this is kinda how it's gonna work. I've tried to round over a bunch of the inside corners to help eliminate any dust getting caught in there. I'm not 100% sure how this is really gonna work, but we're gonna find out. When I printed this out, I just used standard PLA filament. I think it's gonna be plenty durable for what we're trying to do. And here's our printed parts. All we need to do is assemble this thing and see if it works. Now this is one of those projects that at the beginning I thought it would be pretty quick. We could just model something up, print it out, slap it together, and move on to the next project. But in reality, I spent quite a bit of time working on this base plate piece specifically. I had to print this thing out several times, making small changes here and there in order to get it to fit. There was a lot of things that I didn't consider originally when I just took those rough measurements. This piece alone took just over 5 hours to print, so there's 20 hours of printing roughly, just right there. And once I printed everything together, that took 9 hours. So there was a considerable amount of time spent printing. The good thing about that is while the printer's running, I can be off doing other projects, working on other things, so it's not a really big deal as far as that goes, but it does kind of drag out how long a project takes because I can't test it out until it prints. So I have to wait 5 hours. But now that we got a piece, let's see if it works. The first thing we're gonna do is install the magnets on this base plate. There's 4 recesses here, which are gonna fit these little 3/4 inch diameter ceramic magnets. These aren't super strong magnets, but it's what I have right now. I think it's gonna work out okay. All we have to do is glue those into those recesses. Once we have the magnets glued in, we will glue on this angled piece, and then finally we'll glue this on here, and that will complete our unit and we can test it out. To put everything together, I'm just gonna use some super glue. This super glue that I like to use, and I've been using for a little while now, is made by Starbond. You guys have seen me use this stuff before. It's really cool stuff. They have a lot of different thicknesses, viscosities, thin, medium, thick. They have black, they have brown. I really like the tinted stuff. It works really good for a lot of projects. In fact, I have some black somewhere that would work really good for this, but we're gonna use the thick. Starbond sent me some of this super glue quite a while back to try out, and I really liked it, so I've since purchased quite a bit more. If you guys are interested in trying some Starbond for yourself, there's an affiliate link down in the video description. You guys can check it out, get 10% off of your order. I highly recommend checking it out. I think you're gonna like it just as much as I do. And now let's install this thing, and hopefully with any luck, it'll fit. Look at that, almost like it was made to fit up in there. I'm not super impressed with the strength of these magnets, but let's connect the dust hose and make sure it doesn't fall off. I think it's gonna work just fine for now. I guess I should have made that out of something other than black. Then you'd be able to see it a little better. Let's just try this thing out and see if it makes any difference. I've just got some scraps of mahogany. I'm just gonna start slicing up on here. I'll put the camera underneath so that we can look up at it and see if there's any dust raining down like it did at the beginning. Let's see what happens. For this first test, I'm using just a small shop vac connected to the dust port. I don't have anything connected to the rear port on the bandsaw. And now you can still see some dust pouring down. I think it's slightly less dust than it was when we started, but it's definitely not where I want it to be. After the first test, using just the new dust port, we still have some sawdust on the top, as well as some accumulation down here. Let's try it with the dust port as well as with the factory dust port, so I'll have 2 different vacuums connected. That was my original intention. Let's see if that actually makes any difference. I did forget to mention that I vacuumed up all of the dust before starting the test. That way we could see really well what kind of dust accumulates. And again, I'm going to try to vacuum up as much as I can so that we can see how the second test goes. As I'm watching for the dust on this second test, even though I didn't quite get the same camera angle, I still don't quite see the dust raining down from above. That gives me hope that maybe this is going to work. So you saw how much buildup was here with using just the first dust port. I think the combination of the two is way better. There's no more piling up in these areas. There's still a little bit on the top, but not as bad. It's mainly this down here. Before, this would just fill up, spill over the edge, fall on the floor, and just start piling up from there. I think the combination of these two is a much better option. One or the other by itself, yeah, not quite so great. But both of them together, that's a team. Seems like running both of the ports does make a difference. I'm going to continue to use this for a while, and I'm going to see if I can make even some more changes to this model to maybe make it a little more efficient, or maybe fit a little better, maybe close up some gaps around the blade. I'm not quite sure yet, but overall, I think this was worth the time, and yet another example of how you could possibly use 3D printing to create stuff to help you out in your workshop. Hope you guys enjoyed this little experiment here. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. Forgot one small thing. I modified the size on this a little bit. I didn't modify the size on this. Well, that's just cute. Hold please, while I go reprint this in the corrected size. That's probably 2 hours. Darn it. I thought we were gonna finish this up. Oh. Ow. Ow. Oh, my knee.